Welcome back, everybody, to The Deep Dive. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future episodes. Today, we're going deep on something that's really relevant if you're into international relations or if you're a UPSC aspirant.
Right.
Actually, it's a fascinating topic, even if you just want to understand global power dynamics better. We're talking about India and the Nuclear Suppliers Group, the NSG.
Ah, yes, the
Oh, yeah.
NSG. A big player, for sure,
Yeah.
especially with a country like India involved, with their goals for clean energy and their ambitions on the world stage.
Right. It's like this high-stakes game
Yeah.
with cutting-edge technology as the prize. So for anyone new to this whole thing, think of the NSG like an exclusive club, all the nuclear supplier countries. And they're trying to do two things,
Prevent nuclear weapons from spreading,
like non-proliferation.
and also make sure peaceful nuclear trade can happen.
It's a tricky balance, huh?
Oh, for sure. And, this all goes back to 1974, when India did its first nuclear test. Now, India said it was peaceful, but other countries, well, they got nervous, worried about this nuclear tech spreading.
And that's where the NSG comes in, right?
Right. They wanted stricter control over who gets this nuclear stuff. So they set up these criteria for membership. Like, you got to be following non-proliferation agreements, and you got to have strong export controls, tightly regulated.
Okay, so that's the setup. Now, India's been trying to get into this club for a while,
Since 2008, seriously, and really pushing hard since 2016.
and it's a big deal for them. Not just about, prestige or something.
No, not at all. It's about access. Access to the best nuclear technology, which would be huge for India's energy plans. They want to ramp up domestic nuclear energy production.
For their climate goals, reducing reliance on fossil fuels.
Exactly. So you can see why NSG membership is so important to them.
It would really solidify them as a responsible nuclear power globally.
Absolutely.
But it hasn't been easy. There have been some roadblocks.
The NPT, the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, India hasn't signed it.
Ah, that's a big one. Like trying to join a book club without reading the books.
Yeah, a lot of NSG members are really hesitant because of that.
And it's not just the NPT, is it? There are other countries who aren't thrilled about India joining.
Well, you're talking about China. They're worried about the balance of power in the region, especially with Pakistan in the mix, worried about an arms race.
So it's not just technical stuff, it's all this geopolitics too.
Oh, it's a tangled web for sure. But India's got some counter-arguments.
Oh yeah? What are they saying?
Well, they're pointing to their track record. India's got a really strong record on non-proliferation, and they've kept their civilian and military nuclear programs totally separate. Plus, the civilian side is under international monitoring. It's like they're saying, look, we're being responsible. Why can't we have access to the best tech?
Makes sense. Didn't they get some kind of waiver from the NSG back in 2008?
Yeah, that's right. They let them do some nuclear trade, even without full membership. India sees this as proof that the NSG knows they're playing by the rules.
Interesting. So what about Pakistan then? How does India feel about them potentially joining the NSG?
Well, India's got their own concerns there. They bring up Pakistan's past. There have been incidents, where Pakistan was involved in transferring nuclear technology kind of secretly, illicitly. So India argues that Pakistan doesn't meet the same standards for responsibility and transparency. Basically, they're saying letting Pakistan in would be a totally different story, a whole other can of worms.
Wow, so it's not a simple situation at all. Lots of different perspectives to consider.
No, not at all. And what's interesting is how India is really using their good track record to push for what they want.
It's like they're saying, look at us, we're the good guys here.
Exactly. They're all about showing how committed they are to peaceful nuclear energy. They want to be seen as a stabilizing force, not a threat.
Okay, so we've got the background, the history, the players, what's at stake. Now, what about the future? Where could this all go from here?
Well, India's trying to get into the NSG. It's kind of like a puzzle. Several pieces need to fall into place. One way forward is through diplomacy, India could try to get closer to China, ease some of their worries if they can find some common ground. That would be huge. Address Yeah.
China's
China's concerns.
So building trust, especially between those two. That's essential.
Oh, absolutely. Another thing India could do is keep building relationships with other NSG members, get more support for their side, show everyone how dedicated they are to peaceful nuclear energy.
Like building a coalition.
Exactly.
But what about the big one, the NPT? Any chance India changes their mind on that?
That's a tough one. The NPT has been a big part of India's nuclear policy for decades. And they have their reasons. Deep-rooted reasons. You see, they think it's unfair that it creates like a two-tier system, favoring the countries who signed it way back when, putting restrictions on everyone else.
So it's not just the treaty. It's the whole idea behind it and India's history.
Yeah, exactly. India feels like if they sign the NPT now, after they've already built up their nuclear program, it's like admitting they were wrong. It's a matter of pride and sovereignty.
So saying you got to sign the NPT to join the NSG seems like a dead end for India. Are there any other ways to solve this?
Well, some people have talked about maybe India making some promises, binding commitments to follow the main parts of the NPT, even without signing the actual document.
Showing good faith.
Yeah, like, look, we might not sign for historical reasons, but we're going to follow the rules.
A way to find some middle ground.
Exactly. Show the world that India is serious
Yeah.
about not spreading nuclear weapons.
But what about China? Would they go for that?
That's the big question, isn't it? China's stance is key here, and it's all tied up in their bigger strategy in the region. They see India getting stronger, and they're cautious. A little bit of rivalry there, too, let's be honest.
It's not just about nuclear stuff, huh? It's the whole balance of power in Asia.
Exactly. Now, if China were to say, okay, India's being responsible and support their bid, that could change everything. It would show they're ready to cooperate, could lead to a better relationship between those two giants.
A real shift in the landscape. It's fascinating how India's quest to join the NSG really shows all these bigger power dynamics, the stuff that's happening in the world today.
It really does. It highlights how complicated international relations are. You've got national interests, old grudges, and technological ambitions all mixed up.
It's a reminder that solving these problems takes more than just technical expertise. You need to understand history, culture, even political strategy.
For sure. And, while we're talking about all this global stuff, trying to control who gets these powerful technologies, it's important to remember the NSG isn't alone.
Right. There are other agreements, other groups working on this game.
Yeah. You've got the Missile Technology Control Regime, the MTCR. They're trying to limit the spread of ballistic missiles, those things that can carry, well, not good stuff.
We don't want those in the wrong hands, that's for sure.
Nope. And then there's the Wassenaar Arrangement. They try to control exports of conventional arms and dual-use goods.
Dual use? You mean things that could be used for, like civilian stuff or military stuff?
You got it. Think of certain chemicals, advanced materials, or tech that seems harmless but could be used for bad things too.
Like trying to regulate a toolbox, but the tools keep changing.
Exactly. And don't forget the Australia group. They're focused on preventing the spread of chemical and biological weapons.
The really scary stuff.
Yeah, the things that can cause mass casualties, terrible suffering. They're working hard to make sure everyone's on the same page about controlling the materials that could be used to make those weapons.
So we get this whole system, a web of agreements and groups, all trying to keep dangerous technology out of the wrong hands. And the NSG is a key player.
It is. And, for India, joining the NSG isn't just about getting in. It's about shaping the rules of the game. They see themselves as a rising power, rightfully so. And they want to say in setting the standards for nuclear tech.
Not just following the rules, but making them.
Exactly. They've got a strong case, really. They're committed to non-proliferation. Their economy is growing fast. They need more energy. Plus, they're contributing to global security. They've got a powerful military. They help keep things stable in a volatile region.
So being in the NSG, it's like recognition, a sign that India is a major player globally.
Precisely. It would show the world trusts them as a responsible nuclear power, a country that contributes to peace and security. But even with all that, we can't forget the arguments against it.
Right, the NPT. China's concerns about an arms race, are those things just too big to overcome?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? There are valid points on both sides. Some experts say if you let India in without signing the NPT, it sets a bad example.
Like saying the rules are important, but not for everyone.
Yeah, it could weaken the whole system. Make other countries think, hey, maybe we can get nukes too and it'll be okay.
And China's worries about an arms race in South Asia, those are real concerns.
Oh, absolutely. India and Pakistan already have a tense relationship, and if one gets a nuclear advantage, things could get a lot worse.
It's a delicate situation. So with all these challenges, all these concerns, are there any solutions, any compromises that could get India into the NSG?
Well, there are some ideas out there. One is to create a whole new set of criteria for the NSG, not just focus on the NPT, So a country like India that hasn't signed it but has a good track record on non-proliferation, they'd have a way in.
So it's about recognizing those who are behaving responsibly, even if they haven't signed that specific treaty, for their own reasons, historical, political, whatever.
Exactly. It'd take a lot of negotiation, of course, compromise from everyone. But it could work. It could address those big concerns that are keeping India out. It's finding that balance, right?
Yeah.
Recognizing the reality on the ground, but not weakening the whole non-proliferation system.
This whole situation shows how tough things are in the 21st century. Nuclear weapons, climate change, global power shifts, finding solutions that work for everybody. It's rarely easy.
Yeah, no kidding. Things are changing constantly, and it takes real skill to handle it all. Diplomacy, international cooperation. You got to be smart about it.
And it reminds us all how important it is to understand these issues, even if we're not, diplomats or politicians.
Oh, 100%. Informed citizens. That's crucial for any democracy. Especially with these complicated foreign policy challenges, people need to understand what's going on so they can debate, hold their leaders accountable, help make the world a safer place.
Okay, so back to the NSG. We've covered a lot. History, goals, challenges, possible solutions. What are the big takeaways here? What do you want listeners to remember about India and the NSG?
First, this isn't just about India joining a club. It's about their place in the world,
Yeah.
their energy needs, their tech goals, their relationships with other big players like China. It affects a lot of things.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, it is. Second takeaway, both sides have good points. The NPT is important. It helps stop the spread of nuclear weapons. We gotta be careful about anything that could weaken it.
And that potential for things to get unstable in South Asia. We can't ignore that.
No. But at the same time, we gotta acknowledge how far India has come with nuclear safety, non-proliferation. Their arguments for joining the NSG are serious, they're valid.
It's not just we want in, they're backing it up with action,
Yeah.
showing they're responsible.
Exactly. And last but not least, diplomacy is key. Talking to each other. That's how you find solutions that work for everyone. Compromise, negotiation, making sure everyone feels heard.
International relations. It's not black and white.
You got it. Lots of different interests, often clashing. It's about finding a way forward that benefits as many people as possible.
Well, this has been an amazing deep dive. I feel like I really get the NSG now, India's efforts to join, and the bigger picture of global nuclear stuff. You've really helped unpack it all.
Glad to hear it. Hope the listeners feel the same.
I'm sure they do. And speaking of our listeners, before we go, one final thought. We've been talking about the NSG as it is right now, the rules, the criteria. But what happens if the world changes drastically? What if we need clean energy more than ever? What if climate change gets way worse?
That's a great point, and it's something a lot of people are already thinking about. What happens if the demand for clean energy explodes, or if the dangers of climate change become even more clear? Will the NSG have to change, become more flexible? Could that open the door for countries like India, countries that are serious about peaceful nuclear energy?
It really makes you think. Could the NSG adapt, change with the times?
I think it's possible. It's already adapted in the past. If the world changes, the NSG might have to change too, so it can keep doing its job.
It's a good reminder. In international relations, nothing stays the same forever. The future is always changing. And it's up to all of us to help shape it toward peace, security, and a sustainable world for everybody.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's been great diving deep into this with you.
Same. And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us. Keep learning about this stuff. It's important. And hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future episodes. Until next time, keep exploring and stay curious.